Hello, Simmers. We're back. Some more Hockey Legacy Manager 26 challenge mode. And in this one, we're going to be using the Colorado Avalanche. And like Tampa, this is also an offensively based team. So I actually already have a few trades in mind that should help this team out. So let's get right to it. First, we're going to be sending to Chicago Josh Manson, who is a defensive defenseman, 33 years of age. He has a $4.5 million contract, but he also has an extension that takes him to 35. And given that he's a defensive defenseman, he's not exactly going to work out with this team's play style. So we're going to be sending him along with a second round pick to clear up some cap to Chicago in exchange for a 2026 seventh round pick. We'll make this trade. Next up to the Anaheim Ducks will be Trent Miner, a 74 overall goaltender, 24 years of age. Then you have the 81 overall Logan O'Connor, 29 years of age. He's on a $2.5 million deal for the next 6 years. That's going to take him till he's 34. So I would prefer not to be paying an 81 overall. It's 2.5 for that long. And I just feel that would be cap better spent elsewhere. And then you have a 2026 fourth round pick from Carolina in exchange for a 2026 seventh round pick to Anaheim. So once again, just a cap dump deal, proposed trade, and that will work. And the last deal that we're going to be making for right now, anyway, is going to be with the Carolina Hurricanes, and it's a big one. We're going to be sending Valeri Nichushkin, the veteran, 86 overall. So you might be wondering why I'm trading him as an 86 overall when he could obviously be very good for our depth. And then we'll also be sending a 2027 second round pick the other way. But what we're getting in return is Logan Stankoven, the 22-year-old center, high top six potential, 82 overall. And then Jackson Blake, 22 years of age, medium top six potential, 82 overall. Obviously, Nichushkin could help as a player, but I think Stankoven and Blake will have a bigger impact in the future in years 2 and 3. And we do need a playmaker for that third line center, right? Because Drury currently sits there as a two-way forward. So I'm banking on Stankoven and Blake growing to be, better than an 82, ideally an 84 or an 85 for both of them. I think would definitely make this trade pay off. So let's see if this works. Yes, it will. Very nice. And then there is one more player that I want to go after. He's actually in free agency. We're going to be signing Jack Roslovich. He's a 28-year-old center playmaker, very important for the chemistry, at 81 overall. So a solid bottom six scoring center that we can hopefully rely on for some scoring depth. So I'll give him 1 year for 1.85. Actually, no, I'm going to try to make one more trade for Matthias Ekholm from the Edmonton Oilers. He's on a 1 year deal for $6 million, so we can afford him. He's a two-way defenseman, 86 overall, and we're just going to be sending the other way Ivan Yunin, who's a 19-year-old mid-starter potential goaltender. So he may be something in the future, but not anybody who we're going to be using in this particular challenge, I don't think. So we're going to try to see if this works. Yes, it will. Very nice. And then I'll put Ekholm where McDonald is, and that should round out our defensive core pretty nicely. So this is what our lines would look like heading into year number 1. You have Lehkonen, Nelson, and McKinnon on the first line. I decided to use Nelson at center. We'll see what happens with that. Obviously, McKinnon, he's a good face-off guy, but I would like to see what this line chemistry does for the first line, because this is how I was able to get blue line chemistry on the first line. And then the second line, you have Olofsson, Colton, and Natchez. Third line, you have Kiviranta, Stankoven, and Blake. And then the fourth line, you have Landeskog, Drury, and Roslovich. Down in defense, you have Taves and Makar, Ekholm and Burns, and then Girard and Malinsky. And then in goal, of course, you have Blackwood and Wedgwood. And I think this team is set to make a run. So let's get started with the year 1 simulation. All right, so we're about halfway through the season at this point. We're on January 1st, 39 games in. We are 20-16-3, not doing as well as I hoped we would. We're still in a playoff spot, so we're in a decent spot, but like I said, not ideal. So let's see what's going on here. And something tells me it's goaltending because as you see, Nathan McKinnon, 62 points in 39 games played, 38 goals so far on the season. That is absolutely ridiculous. And then you have Lehkonen with 36, Nelson with 32, Makar with 31, Natchez with 27. So like I said, something tells me, yep, unfortunately. It's goaltending, all right. Mackenzie Blackwood with the .879 save percentage in 30 games played, and Wedgwood in 9 games played with the .843. Oof. Yep, that's usually what it comes down to. So while I would normally give Blackwood the benefit of the doubt, I don't think that's what I'm going to be doing in a challenge series like this. So instead, I'm going to try to trade for Kochetkov, who is an 85 overall, making $2 million for the next 2 years, And Carolina wants to trade him as well. He has a .913 save percentage so far this year in 19 games played, so he's doing well. We're going to see if that can carry over to your Colorado Avalanche. So, of course, going the other way is going to have to be Blackwood. He's making 5.25 for the next 5 years, so this should unload some cap as well. And we might be able to just do this straight up. Blackwood for Kochetkov. Can we do that? Yes, we can. Very nice. So hopefully Kochetkov can do better in that for us. All right, so we're here at the trade deadline, and we are currently 31, 25, and 5. Good enough for third in the division still. So we're still in the playoff spot, but unfortunately still not in a great spot here, as St. Louis and Nashville could catch up at any moment. So you have McKinnon with 91 points currently on the season. He is on track to be an MVP. 54 goals already. He may very well hit 70 the rate he's going. And you have Lehkonen with 54, Nelson with 49, Makar with 48, and Necas with 47. In goal, Kochetkov with an 897. That's collective throughout the season. He unfortunately has not been doing well here in Colorado with the 878. So he's basically doing the same job that Blackwood was. Ooh, Blake and Stankoven are now both 84 overalls. So you like to see it. You like to see it. I think I should try them on the second line at this point. I mean, that's not exactly the problem, though, right? Like, the scoring's not exactly the problem. It is in goal and potentially the defense, but forwards are certainly not the problem here. I mean, everyone on the team has a CF percentage of at least 52%. So, yeah, it really just comes down to goaltending. I think that's basically it. We just have to get lucky with a goaltender. So I'm going to trade Wedgwood because he has not been doing well at all. I think to replace him, I might call up Ilya Nabokov, 77 overall. He hasn't been doing too well in the AHL this year, though, 893. So I'm not inclined to believe that he would do that much better in the NHL. I think I'll try to trade for Peter Mrazek from Seattle. He's an 83 overall, 34 years of age, and he has a .912 save percentage so far this year. And then going the other way, obviously, will be Wedgwood and then 2 7th-round picks. Let's see if that'll go through. Yes, it will. Okay, so I'm not sure what happened here, but this team somehow missed the playoffs. We finished 38, 38, and 6. Despite Nathan McKinnon having 62 goals on the season, 114 points, Lehkonen with 67 points, Makar with 66, Nelson with 62, and Necas with 59. Then in goal, you have Kochetkov with an 891 save percentage and 51 games played. And for us, that was 32 games played and 878. So, I mean, there's the problem right there, I think. And then you have Mrazek in 5 games played with the 874. Jeez. I mean, it was goaltending. It was goaltending all year long. That's the only explanation here. Our last 10, 2 and 8. Yikes. Yeah, once again, I think it really just came down to goaltending. I mean, maybe we could get some better shot blockers. Like maybe we could replace Girard. He's not really much of a shot blocker, or at least he wasn't this year. Then hit-wise, maybe we could afford to get another hitter on defense. Because after Makar, Ekholm, and Taves, then you have Burns with 67, Girard with 53, and then Malinsky with 26. Yeah, I think the goal for this offseason has to be getting some more hitters because we don't really have too many. I think we should get at least one hitter for the forward core and then a hitter for the defensive core who's ideally also good at shot blocking. So I think we got to trade Girard. I don't know if he's going to work out. And then maybe instead of Kiviranta on the third line, get a solid power forward in free agency who can slot next to Stankoven and Blake. Yeah, I think that might be what I do. All right, so I guess we have a plan going into next season, and let's hope that we're able to find players that fit those descriptions in the offseason, and we'll hope that year 2 will be a better one because obviously we didn't even make the playoffs this year when we really should have. This team really should have made the playoffs, especially with how McKinnon did with 62 goals. I mean, this team was disappointing this season for sure. And the Stanley Cup in year number 1 goes to the Minnesota Wild. Let's see, retirements. You have Brent Burns and Matthias Ekholm retiring. Okay, so that's a hitter that we just lost on defense. Matthias Ekholm was pretty good for us with the hits. And then Burns, obviously, being that offensive defenseman, was also pretty good with the shot blocking. He had 67 hits this past season. So the defensive core is certainly going to be different going into next season regardless. And take a look at the draft lottery now. I do not believe we're in it. So let's see the result. You have San Jose winning the first overall pick and Columbus getting second. All right, so we're just going to go through the draft really quick here because, it's not like we're going to be seeing too many of the players that come out of these drafts anyway. And besides that, our first pick is in the 4th round, so it's not like we'll really be getting anybody too good here. Yeah, we got basically nobody out of this draft. Our best player was Sjöström, who we took in the 4th round. He's already 19, is 62 overall, with the top 6 potential as a defenseman, so nothing really worth noting there. At least not for the purpose of this series. Let's see, who do we have to re-sign this year? You have Natchez, who's expiring. What does he want? He wants 8 years for 9.9. Oh boy. And I managed to get him down to 8 years for 8.275 with a modified no trade clause, which has a 10-team no trade clause list. So I think we'll send him this offer. And then because I want to get through the rest of the offseason rather quickly, I'm just going to do the rest of the re-sign stage on my own. And why did Natchez duplicate? Natchez is now Nathan McKinnon as well. I'm not sure what's going on there. Does that reflect in the lines? No, it doesn't. Okay, good. All right, so we're at free agency now, and I want 2 guys in particular. I want Liljegren, 27 years of age, 83 overall, 2-way defenseman. And then at forward, I want Kevin Hayes. Nice hitter for the bottom 6. 133 hits last season. So even if he drops, he should be a good player for at least 1 year. So let's get this free agency started. And I will immediately go after Liljegren. 4.65 for 4 years. And then Kevin Hayes, I will give you 1 year for $2 million. There you go. We got both of them. Very nice. I'm not going to lie, guys. We might have to buy out Landy next season. I can't do it right now because the buyout window already passed, but we may very well have to buy out Landy because he's making $7 million for the next 3 years. And we have roughly $4 million cap space left. And with that, I think that's all we can really do during this offseason, unfortunately. Was not able to get everyone who I wanted. So hopefully we'll be able to address some of those issues during the regular season. Yeah, we're going to have to buy out Landy. We're definitely going to have to buy out Landy. He's down to a 79 now, still making $7 million for the next 3 years. Yeah, as much as I hate to do it, like I know how much he means to this franchise, but for the sake of this challenge mode, it's just not a feasible contract. Then you have Kevin Hayes, who also dropped to a 79, but like I said, at least it's only a 1 year deal, making $2 million. He's gonna be on our 4th line anyway. Then you have Brock Nelson to an 82. Might have to trade him as well. He's making 7.5 for 2 years. All right, here we are at the start of year number 2 of our first run, and we're looking a little weaker this year, unfortunately. But what we do have is full blue line chemistry, including the 4th line, and then defensive core. Still the same blue line chemistry that we had, different players, and like I said, unfortunately some lower overalls in there, but I'm still pretty hopeful for the depth that we have this year. You have Olofsson, McKinnon, Blake on the first line. I decided to put McKinnon at center. Of course, he did very well at wing last season, but I obviously wanted to prioritize line chemistry, and that was the only way to get it for the first line. Then you have Lehkonen, Colton, and Natchez. Then you have Hayes, Nelson, and Stankoven, and then Kiviranta, Drury, and Roslovic. And then on the defense, you have Taves and Makar, Girard and Malinsky, Goyev and Liljegren. Now, Goyev is a 75 overall offensive defenseman, 21 years of age, medium top 4 potential. So I'm hoping he does well this season alongside Liljegren. And then, of course, you have Kochetkov and Nabokov in goal. Maybe the goaltending will be a little bit better this year. I mean, I can't imagine it'll be worse, right? So let's see what happens in year number 2. Okay, we're at the trade deadline. We are 29-28-4. Good enough for 5th in the division. Take a quick look at the stats. You have McKinnon with 77 points, Makar with 67, Natchez with 53, Blake with 50. Then it drops off a little bit to Taves with 39. Then you have Lehkonen with 31, Colton with 30, Drury with 29, Nelson with 27, Olofsson with 23, Roslovic with 22. And then in goal, you have Kochetkov in 49 games played with a 900 save percentage, and Nabokov in 12 games played with an 868. Oh boy. You know what? I'm not waiting for Goyev to get better. He's taking way too long. He's still a 75 overall, and we only got 1 year left. So I'm just going to go all out. I'm going to trade for Jackson Lacombe, 26 years of age, 85 overall offensive defenseman. He's got 1 year left on his deal, so we're going to have to re-sign him after this year, but that's all right. Because once again, I think we're going to have to buy out, at the very least, Nelson, if not also Landy. So let's try Goyev and Sjöström for Jackson Lacombe at 50% of his salary retained. Very nice. All right, we have finished the regular season once again, finishing 5th in the division with a record of 38, 39, and 5, almost identical to last season. So I don't know what to say. McKinnon had almost 60 goals once again, 58 goals in 79 games played, 108 points. Makar had 90 points this season. He had, I think it was, mid 60s last season. Then you have Blake with 68, and Nages with 67, Taves with 50. And then in goal, you have an 898 save percentage for Kochetkov in 66 games played, and an 877 for Nabokov. I don't know what to say about the goaltending, as we have missed the playoffs for a second consecutive season. I mean, it's not like we're even losing in the playoffs here. We're not even making the playoffs with this team, which is puzzling, to say the least. Yeah, we're going to have to buy out Nelson. He only had 30 points this year, and he's only going to keep getting worse with the 1 year left on a $7.5 million deal after this year ends. Yeah, we're going to have to buy out Landy. We have to if we want to be able to retool effectively. And one more season, nonetheless. And your year 2 Stanley Cup champions are the Vegas Golden Knights. And do we have any retirements? No, it does not look like any current players playing for us. So let's see the draft lottery. We are in the 9th overall position this year. We didn't have a first round pick last year, but we do this year. So let's go through it slowly here. At number 16, you have Carolina, followed up by the Islanders, Philly, Detroit, Seattle, Nashville, Columbus, your Colorado Avalanche at number 9. And then we'll skip through the rest. And you have Anaheim at number 1, and LA moves up to number 2. All right, let's see what we're taking here with this pick. I think it's got to be, I think we'll be taking Boss Meyer with this pick. 64 overall, high top 6 potentials. So obviously no one we'll be seeing in this playthrough, but still a good asset to have in the organization. Ooh, we got to re-sign Makar this year. He wants 7 years for $15.55 million and a no movement clause. Yeah, it's well deserved. And I got him out to 7 years for $13.525. Now, what was he making before? He was making $9 million before. So he's going from $9 million to roughly $13 million. And then you also have Kochetkov, who wants 5 years for $8.6. He was making $2 million last year. And then, you have Lacombe, 5 years for 7.8. Yeah, it's inevitable. Landy, I'm sorry. I wish you the best of luck, but we have to buy you out. And then Nelson as well. We're going to have to buy you out as well. There you go. I think out of this free agency, I want to go after Erik Karlsson. Now, obviously, he's 37 years of age, but he's still an 84 overall, 85 offensive. I think it would be great to replace Malinsky, who's currently an 80 overall. So that's what I'm going to do. I will go after Karlsson. I'll give him 3 years for 3.7. Oh, rejected. He goes to Minnesota. Okay. Let's see. Is there anybody else? Not really. Not anyone that would be a significant upgrade anyway. Yeah, I don't think there's anything really here for us. So I think with that, we're just going to go straight ahead to next season. And hopefully we get somebody who gets a big jump here, and it does not seem so. No, we do not have anyone who's getting a big jump. In fact, Lehkonen goes down by 2. He's down to an 83 now. Ooh, Werenski was just offered by Columbus for Nabokov, Meyer, and a first. I mean, it's year number 3, so it's not like the first is going to really matter, at least not for the purposes of this save file. Meyer, I mean, again, doesn't really matter at this point, at least not for this challenge mode. I would definitely hold on to him if this were a normal GM mode, but that's obviously not the case. And then Nabokov, and he's a 78 overall. That looks nice, but just not sure about the contract. They did retain 32% of his salary, and that's just enough to keep us under the cap ceiling. I mean, where would he fit in our lineup? It would have to be Taves and Makar, and then Werenski and Girard, and then Lacombe and Liljegren. I think that would have to be it. Yeah, you know what? We may as well, because I can't imagine Nabokov's going to be growing too much more at this point. He's already 24, and he didn't have a great season last year. And then Meyer, once again, not going to be seeing him in this franchise mode in the 2028 first round pick that we're not even going to use. So yeah, let's have this go through. There you go. So Zach Werenski, welcome to the team. And hopefully that can make things a little bit better here. But of course, we are going to need a backup goaltender. So I think what I'll do, I'll trade Kelly, just get his cap out of here. And then, you know what? Sure, why not? We'll get Peter Mrazek back as a backup goaltender. I'll give him a 6th and a 7th as well if they retain 50% of his salary. So would that work? Yes, indeed. All right, so here's what we have going into year number 3. We have Olofsson, McKinnon, and Blake, Stankoven, Colton, and Natchez, Lehkonen, Roslovic, and Kiviranta, and then Bardakov, Drury, and Barre Boulet. Unfortunately, a 76 overall in that 4th line. Then on defense, you have Taves and Makar, Werenski and Liljegren, Lacombe and Girard. And then in goal, Kochetkov and Mrazek. So we'll see what happens. It's the last year of the initial challenge. And if we do not win this, then I'm just going to have to keep going until we have a winner. And who knows how many years that'll take to add on to our total score here. Oof, a 1 month injury for Nathan MacKinnon. You do not like to see it. Oh boy, and that's on top of injuries to Olofsson and Blake as well. All right, we have made it to the end of the year 3 regular season. We have finished 4th in the division, but clinched a wildcard spot as we finished 43, 30, and 9, 95 points on the season, plus 28. Decent all season, all things considered, especially considering some major injuries we had in there, including to MacKinnon, who, as we take a look at the season stats, only had 86 points this season, but you have Makar with 82, Stankoven with 78, Necas with 76, Werenski with 68, Blake with 65, so you're seeing a lot more spread out scoring, at least in the top 6 this year. You have Colton with 55, then you have Taves with 50, and then it drops off immediately to Olofsson with 26. From 50 to 26, that is quite a huge gap. We rely heavy on our top 6, on our top players there in general. And then in goal, you have Kochetkov in 65 games played with an 896 save percentage, and Mrazek as well in 17 games played. So what we're going to do for these playoffs, we're going to just quickly simulate through, as I would like to get through this whole challenge in one video. So we're going to do this first round against the San Jose Sharks, and we'll see what happens. And it looks like we're going to a game 7 here. Come on, Colorado. And we have a 5-3 loss. So we're out in the first round. And that is the end of the first try. So unfortunately, it seems I'm going to have to keep going until I find a winner here. And let's just see who the Stanley Cup champion is. And the notification was actually stuck behind the challenge failed message, but I believe it was the New York Rangers. Yes, indeed. It was the New York Rangers who won the Stanley Cup this year. So I think with that, we will exit out of the save file, and I will update you guys in the next save file. All right, so this is year number 3 of the second try. So this is year number 6 here in total. And we are at game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals against the Washington Capitals. We are currently 52, 24, and 6 on the regular season. And of course, we're going to be going into this one. So let's get things underway. Game 7 against Washington. Let's go. And there's a goal for Strome to get things started for Washington. Not what you like to see. Can we get anything? No, we cannot. We're headed into the second period, down by 1. And there's a goal for Olofsson on the power play from Makar and MacKinnon. And there's one for Brindley from Kiviranta and Dvorak. And we're now tied at 2 as Duheim gets the goal for Washington. And I'll show you guys the lines after this. I suppose I should have showed the lines beforehand. And there's a goal for Washington. Dubois with the goal makes it 3-2. Halfway through the second period now. And we're headed into the third period, down by 1. Actually, I could just show you guys the lines right now. So currently I have Kelly, Necas, MacKinnon. Kelly is in place of Bolduc, who had an injury, who I traded for earlier at the start of this season. Then you have Perfetti, Colton, Nichushkin. Then you have Lehkonen, Roslovic, and Olofsson. And then you have Kiviranta, Dvorak, and Brindley. Then on defense, you have Taves and Makar, York and Liljegren, and then Girard and Malinsky. And then in goal, you have Luukkonen and Urson. Better late than never, right? So let's get to the third period now. Come on, Colorado. Halfway through the third period now. Still no scoring for your Colorado Avalanche in this period. 5 minutes remaining. Come on. Please. Please. Well, we're here at the end of the third run. First line, you have Caulfield, who I managed to trade for from Montreal a couple years back, along with MacKinnon, of course, and then Alex Tuck, who I also acquired a couple years back. Then you have Kuzmenko, Strome, and Nichushkin on the second line. Olofsson, Necas, third line is crazy. And then Evangelista, who was on the third line as an 84 overall playmaker prior to getting injured. So, I mean, that is a stacked top 9 right there. And then you have Drury, Lundell on the fourth line, and then Roslovic. So I'm really not sure how to do much better than that in terms of a forward core. And then on defense, you have Taves and Makar, Girard and Spence, and then Fowler and Barron, and then Anderson and Binnington and net. So we'll take a look at the trade history here. I'll just show you guys all the trades I made because there are quite a few of them. So I start out by trading Manson's contract. He had I believe it was a $4.5 million salary. And then I trade Ross Colton in exchange for Hogg, Evangelista, Barron, and 2 second-round picks. And then I unload Hogg's contract, which was the key to getting Evangelista and Barron in the same trade, to Chicago in exchange for a 7th-round pick. So I intentionally took on Hogg's bad contract. And then I trade for Fowler from St. Louis. Then I trade Blackwood because he wasn't doing well, along with Unin, who was a goaltender prospect, in exchange for Bobrovsky, who retired soon after, and then Lundell and a first. And Bobrovsky, keep in mind, he had a very negative trade value, which again is how I got Lundell in the first. Then I trade for Talbot as a backup goaltender. Then I trade for Kreider as some temporary depth. And then comes the Cole Caulfield trade in exchange for Lehkonen, Golyev, Kelly, and a first-round pick that I got from Florida. Then I trade for Spence from Ottawa. Then I trade for Strome from Washington in exchange for Eller, Prishkapov, and a first. And then I make another trade with Washington for Kuzmenko in exchange for Damphouse and a fourth. So I'm not sure how much better I can do as far as the forward core goes. I guess maybe the defensive core could have been a bit better, but all in all, I would say this was a solid effort. But unfortunately, nothing came of it. So we're going to take a look at the player stats here. Nathan MacKinnon, 100 points on the season. Caulfield had 80. Tuck was 70. Makar was 65. Strome was 61. So quite a bit of depth scoring on this team. And then in the playoffs for this past year, you have MacKinnon with 22. Caulfield with 17. Tuck with 15. Makar with 11. So we made it to the third round. We start out against the Chicago Blackhawks with a 5-game series win. Then you have the second round against the Minnesota Wild where we won in 6. And then you have the Vancouver Canucks who swept us out of the third round to continue this challenge mode. And we now have to go yet another attempt. So we're heading into year number 10 now in total. Well, we're here at the end of year number 12 and we have to go yet another... We have to keep going here as we have yet to win the Stanley Cup. I decided to go with a bit more of a minimalist style this time. I've made as few changes as possible while also trying to improve the team. I got Dorofeyev out of free agency as an RFA. I traded for Zetterlund. And then I think I acquired Kerfoot and Dvorak in free agency. And then Barons grew to an 84. He's been in the system ever since year number 1. Then I got Carlson and Josi out of free agency in the year 2 free agency. So heading into this year number 3. And then I traded for Wall and Luukkonen. But that was about it as far as new acquisitions go. And I even at one point decided to fire Jared Bednar because I decided, you know what, it doesn't seem like it's working out. Let's try a different head coach. I hired Corey Perry, who has a balanced style. So I figured maybe that would help out a little bit to, you know, make the goaltending a bit better, because it really does just depend on goaltending, doesn't it? With the success of a team. And Wall did well in these past playoffs. He had a .916 save percentage in 19 games played. We made it to the third round against Vancouver, who knocked us out in, I believe that is 7 games. Or no, that's 6 actually. Yeah, that's 6 games against Vancouver. But still, I haven't been able to figure it out. I'm not sure what it is, but we have yet to find the answer here in Colorado. I'll show you guys the trades that I made. I once again traded Manson. I traded O'Connor to get his cap out of the way. I traded Blackwood for Luukkonen. I traded Kelly for a 7th round pick to get his contract out of the way because I think he had a 5-year deal for 1.7, so I freed up a little bit of cap that way. All right, Josi was a trade acquisition, not a free agent signing, but I got Nashville to retain 50% of his salary. Then I traded for Zetterlund from Ottawa, and then I traded for Wall in exchange for Anderson, who had negative trade value at that point, so I had to include a couple of prospects and picks along with him. But yeah, it looks like we're gonna have to go another try here. So I guess with that, we'll head into try number 5 and year number 13 of this challenge. Okay, so we're here in year number 2 of the 5th attempt, which is year number 14 in total, by the way. So this is taking quite some time, but we are 1 win away. We are finally 1 win away from the Stanley Cup with the Colorado Avalanche. So let's take a quick look at the lineup to see what we have. On the first line, you have Dorofeyev, MacKinnon, and Necas. Second line, you have Lehkonen, Colton, and Nichushkin. Third line, you have Olofsson, Frost, and Bunting. Then the fourth line, you have Bardakov, Drury, and Kiviranta. And on defense, you have Taves and Makar, Gerard and Carrier, and then Grzelcyk and Malinsky. And then in goal, you have Levi and Binnington. Levi, he has been pretty good for us so far this season. 906 save percentage in 42 games played during the regular season. And during the playoffs so far, a 912 save percentage. So I'm really hoping that this is going to be the run here. I'm really hoping that we can win this game number 5 and call it wraps on this challenge. So here we go. Game number 5 underway against Ottawa. Come on, Colorado. Get off to a good start here. Power play for Colorado goes nowhere. Get the first goal. There it is. Olofsson from Gerard and Carrier makes it 1-0 in favor of Colorado. Okay, there's MacKinnon with the goal from Carrier and Necas, but then it's Batherson for Ottawa to make it 2-1 heading into the second period. And there's Bardakov with the goal. Depth coming in clutch from Grzelcyk and Malinsky to give us a 2-goal lead. But now Ottawa has a power play. Close out this second period with a 2-goal lead. But there's Olofsson from Frost and Bunting to give us a 3-goal lead. And we're looking good. We are looking good. But Kachuk, with 1 second left at the end of the second period, gets Ottawa back within 2. Come on, Colorado. There it is. Devon Taves from McKinnon and Natchez to make it 5-2. And this is looking pretty good for your Colorado Avalanche here. Just got to close out this period. Come on, Colorado. There it is. Nichushkin from Makar and Lehkonen to make it 6-2. And there's McKinnon, make it 7-2 from Dorofeyev and Natchez. And we should have this one all but wrapped up. Barring some miracle comeback from Ottawa late here. But I do not think that's going to happen. Power play. And another power play, and that will just about do it. Your Colorado Avalanche have finally won the Stanley Cup. McKinnon finishing off the playoffs with 33 points. Love to see it. Natchez with 28, Makar with 26, and Dorofeyev with 24 rounds out the top 4. And then in goal, you have Levi with a .914 save percentage and 1 shutout in 22 games played. And of course, the 16 wins. So we finally got it done with Colorado. It took a little bit longer than I was expecting, for sure. But in the end, we did get it done. I'm going to show you guys the moves that I made throughout this save file. So you have Gudbranson, who I traded for from Columbus in order to get Manson's contract out of here, because Gudbranson only had a 1-year deal compared to Manson's 3-year deal. And then I traded O'Connor, who has I believe it was a 6-year deal at the time, and Unen for a 3rd-round pick. And then I traded for Brossoit from Seattle to see if he would work out in goal. Spoiler alert, he did not end up working out in goal. So I traded for Levi from Buffalo in exchange for Blackwood, because Blackwood was not working out. So I figured Levi might be a good future option, because I believe he was only a 79 overall at the time. And he did, in fact, end up working out, as we see by the result here. And then you have Binnington, who I traded for from St. Louis to be the backup. And then you have Morgan Frost from Calgary in exchange for Nabokov, who I believe was a goalie prospect. Yes, indeed. And then I also traded for Carrier from Montreal in exchange for Cloutier, Kelly, Brossoit, and a 2nd. And all those moves resulted in the Year 14 challenge completed with the Colorado Avalanche. So that being done, I think that'll just about wrap up the Colorado Challenge. And the next one, we will take on the Winnipeg Challenge. But of course, before we wrap things up, I do want to thank the channel members. Thank you guys so much for your support, and I will see you guys in the next one.